The following video is a sample lecture of our Introduction to Non-Lethal Self-Defense course. You can find a link to the course in the description below. Non-lethal versus lethal self-defense. This is always an interesting topic to talk about, especially when you're trying to convince someone who has a firearm, for example, that there's a lot of issues with using guns or knives or anything else versus a less than lethal option. Because I've run into quite a few situations where I recommend pepper spray or some other device, and I'm always basically given flack like, pepper spray, what do I need that for? I got a gun, or I have a conceal and carry permit. I get that reaction all the time. It's pretty ridiculous, but there are a multitude of reasons why you should pick a less than lethal option over a lethal option any day. And this is what we'll be going over, specifically when it comes to using firearm. So number one, I always tell people that in regards to our company principles or motto is that it's better to stun and run than shoot and kill. Because the purpose of self-defense is to stop your attacker so you can run away and get to safety. You want to do that without significantly hurting them or killing them in the process, and that's the problem with a firearm, is that there's a chance that a very high likelihood that you're going to kill that person, which most people don't intend to do. Number two, lack of training can be fatal for the user. I obviously don't want to be like the lady in this picture looking down a barrel like an idiot. If you don't know how to properly use your firearm, you're asking for a lot of trouble. And there are obviously a lot of reasons why this is. The problem is that using a firearm requires a lot of maintenance and upkeep. You gotta know how to properly clean your gun. You need to be practicing frequently. A lot of people don't have the money or the time to go to the range on a frequent basis. And my guess is that most people do not train, which is problematic because you need to know how to react properly in a situation where you do have to use your firearm, and you have to be able to actually shoot or hit your target. And that's the nice thing about non-lethal self-defense products, is that it doesn't require constant training, and best of all, you won't kill someone either. Number three, if you pull it, be prepared to use it. So there's two issues with this. The first issue is that some people seem to think that by pulling out a firearm and threatening your attacker with it, you think that they're going to back down. The problem with that is that when an attacker is threatened with lethal force, they're more than likely to up the ante up from either another weapon or a knife up to a firearm themselves. So you better be prepared for that if you're planning on doing it. The other thing is that you had better be prepared to use it in full force. That means shooting center of mass and stopping your target. That doesn't mean trying to shoot to wound or anything else, because that is just going to land you in a lot of legal trouble. That's not what a firearm is used for or used to do. That's a problem that a lot of conceal and carry holders don't understand or realize. So something to keep in mind. Number four, your weapon can be used against you. It's probably one of the worst things about using a firearm for self-defense. Now, with a non-lethal weapon, if somebody snatches your pepper spray from you or your taser, it's going to be more discomfort than anything else. You're not going to have to worry about potentially dying from it as you would from a gun. So if somebody steals your gun, takes it away from you, and uses it against you, you're in big trouble. Number five, hesitation can cost you your life. This ties in with number four. If you freeze up or hesitate because you're worried about killing this person, then one, you shouldn't have a firearm for self-defense to begin with, and two, it's pretty much game over. You've got to have a quick reaction time in dealing with your threat. So Number 6, can you live with killing someone? This is literally the worst thing in dealing with the aftermath of an altercation. A gun is absolutely not for someone who is going to have emotional trauma over defending themselves. That's why law enforcement officers and people from the military tend to have it a lot easier in using a gun for self-defense because they've already been trained, mentally trained or prepared for a situation to occur. It's just an additional issue that you have to worry about besides a legal problem. Number 7, an innocent bystander could be the next victim. If you're trying to defend yourself in an area where there's some people around or some people passing by, you could potentially miss your target and hit another person instead. And that's going to be a huge legal problem for you in the aftermath. So that's another reason why using a firearm for self-defense is not a good idea, because someone could end up dead. The other issue is that there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the news about how children either get a hold of their parents' firearm or a relative's firearm, they end up killing themselves by accident because the person didn't leave it locked up or something else. So that's another issue. And finally, number 8, guns just aren't that effective or necessary for most situations. Now, the data in this image is from 2006 through the NYPD, but I'm sure it still holds up pretty strongly even now. As you can see, 57% of shots miss their target when there's a distance between 7 to 6 feet from the criminal or suspect. 77% of shots miss the target when it's 6 to 21 feet away. So what's the point of having something if you're not even going to hit your target? You're better off carrying pepper spray or at least a taser. Even if you miss with a taser, at least it's non-lethal. You don't have to worry about killing somebody. The biggest issue besides this is that most situations, forgot the percentile on it, but I think it was like 80% or something of most altercations, the criminal or attacker doesn't have a weapon. They're unarmed. So for all those people that talk about how they don't need pepper spray or anything like that because they've got a gun or a permit to carry, what are you going to do in a situation where you have to deal with someone who doesn't have a weapon? Because it's a huge legal issue. Because unless you can provide evidence of exigent circumstances, whether you have less physical strength than the other person or just some other solid reason that you can bring up in court, you're just pretty much screwed. Because it's going to be considered as excessive use of force because civilians are put on the same use of force continuum as police officers and other personnel. So, those are 8 huge reasons why non-lethal self-defense is much better than using lethal self-defense such as a firearm or a knife. That's all for this lecture. In the next lecture, we'll be discussing use of force continuum and how it applies to both law enforcement officers as well as civilians.